For your listening pleasure, reaching for the.
Oh, I almost screwed it up. I did screw it up anyway. Okay. Cheers,
Huzzah.
everybody.
Cheers.
Okay. All right, guys. Welcome. Oh, sorry. Welcome to Reaching for the Bars podcast. Today we got something special going on. So we have a special guest and then a guest that we had a couple weeks ago who's now filling in. So James is here.
Hello.
And you recognize him from a few.
You didn't get his little.
I know.
Okay.
No fairy music.
Okay, no fairy music.
No.
All right.
And then Tim Pickens is here with us. Tim, go ahead and say hi to everybody.
Well, hello, everyone.
Oh, that sounded good.
Oh, nice.
Like you've been doing it for years.
Yes.
James and Tim are friends, so that's how we kind of got hooked up, and James said we could get him on the podcast, so we're going to have some fun today. I won't spoil anything, but I'll also introduce everybody else. So we're here with Andrew.
Hello.
Our executive producer, and Caleb, the tallest member of the cast.
Hi. Is that what I'm known for?
It's debatable.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew's obviously
I'm runner-up.
the shortest.
Oh.
I'm the best looking. You're the tallest.
Well,
It's Mabry.
He's not here.
Oh.
So it
What's
doesn't
he's
matter.
absent.
Yeah, James is the best looking.
I was about to say,
Yeah, James is the best
better
looking.
looking
Oh,
than you.
shucks.
I take
guys.
second place.
It is, man.
So if you're watching on the video, the first thing is I'm going to give a shout out here to Mr. Garrett.
Garrett Bell.
He did this graffiti.
Yes, it is incredible.
So if you're watching right now, we're going to shout him out later in the episode, but I just wanted everybody to see.
We'll post a picture of it too.
Yeah, we will post a picture if
Yeah.
you're just listening.
And tag.
It's pretty
tag him in it.
unbelievable. So to break the ice a little bit, I'm going to hand it over to Caleb right off the bat. Caleb is going to do some rapid fire questions. If you haven't listened to all the episodes, Tim, some of these questions are very important to the podcast, and you are about to take a stand, and
Yeah.
you don't even know it yet.
So there are wrong and right answers. We will react to whatever answer you give.
Yes.
So don't be.
And Maber's not here, so.
And
Okay, well, I haven't studied up on
No,
you
I'm
guys
just joking.
a lot. James has
You-
shared a little bit.
but it's
Oh,
basically just one or the other. Like it's not. You just choose whichever one you prefer. Okay. So we'll start off with an easy one. The smell of fresh cut grass or right after it rains.
The rain.
Rain.
I like
Nice.
the rain.
I'm okay with that.
one, yeah.
Good answer. Good answer.
The ozone, that's what gets to me.
Are you dogs or cats?
I'm a dog man.
Okay.
That was a big tenant.
Caleb sent me that list earlier, and I literally said, what if he says cats?
Well, that was a good episode.
All right, guys. That's enough. Let's get out of here.
And that's a wrap.
That's right. Would you prefer a nice patio or a nice porch?
That's a nice side. It's going to be a nice porch with
Porch,
the
deck?
because they're usually covered. And that gives me a little more, with the heat we've been having, I think that's going to be the answer. Yep.
I got a really dumb question, but patios and porches aren't the same thing?
I
Negative.
think concrete for patios.
Yeah. More like ground level. Porches tend to be a little higher sometimes.
Elevated.
And usually
there you
the
go.
sun's heating them up. We've got some cover usually on a porch.
You
Learn
put
something every day.
I'm
I'm just an idiot.
boating or four wheeling.
Oh my goodness, I love them both. But I do boating more, so boating.
Oh, there we
Okay.
go.
Okay.
Nice.
Pepsi or Coke?
Oh, I know this one.
Maybe
Maybe I don't.
I'm a Coke guy, even though you guys are feeding me Pepsi, but I like it too. Sometimes I like Pepsi, especially when I've been to the hospital and they've given me one of those inspections that are uncomfortable. They always hand me a Pepsi. It's the best thing you've ever had.
The doctor's office is in the back of a guy's van.
No, at the hospitals, they do Pepsi, man. It's like the best thing you've ever had after been, preparing. Let's leave it at that.
All right. Auburn or Alabama?
Oh boy.
Oh my, this is tough.
I know James is an Auburn man.
Well, my wife's got a PhD from Auburn, and it's like that means something in the house. But you know, I sort of like the Bama. I feel like a guy who's kind of relates to the more fun people that are sort of country.
It's like I don't even know you.
I know. Yeah. By the way, if I'm looking for a sophisticated, more let's just say an educated type of audience, then Auburn wins. Okay.
Wow. What a stance.
Did you just say people that go to Alabama are dumber?
No.
Exactly what I said.
My daughter went to Bama.
Man, that's a loaded question. Let's move on to the next one.
You just stepped
Caleb
all
just drew a
over us.
hard line in the sand.
I am sweating it.
Would you prefer the country or the city?
Oh boy, I like the country, but also don't. The city's happening. It's dynamic, and I'll be honest with you. I really love Huntsville, and there's a lot going on. So I'm really torn. The idea of living in the country, been there, done that, but it is boring, and the quality of neighbors you have, it's like being in Green Acres sometimes, and it's pretty rough.
Huntsville has a good mix of
I
both.
like it,
So.
man.
Yeah,
So
it
let's
does.
say city.
Okay. And then I got two more.
Okay.
Or three more, sorry. Star Wars or Star Trek?
Oh.
That's a tough one.
This may be more decisive than Alabama and Auburn.
Yeah.
I grew up on Star Trek, and that's what my dad would watch because he controlled the world at the house, and
Okay.
we didn't have cable, so I'm sort of in that zone, man. And the Star Wars stuff it started, in my senior year, junior, senior. So I don't know. I didn't get all caught up in it. Sorry.
Star Trek?
Yeah.
You don't be sorry.
Would
Those are just your
Yeah.
opinions.
Would you pick Star Trek: The Next Generation over Star Wars?
Wow.
That's a good question.
Is that the new one?
No, I enjoyed Star Wars, but to be honest with you, I only saw the first two, and it tells you something.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Now recently, I've
is a strong stance
mentioned
you're
to
making here.
someone that I really need to go back and watch them all in series. But that's a
Yeah.
lot of time, guys. I could be building something.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair.
Maybe it'll give you some ideas to fly through space.
Yeah.
I've got some of those, and maybe we can meet with those guys and tell them what reality looks like, and we'll get them out of the movie Hollywood phase and get them into reality. So yeah, maybe, who knows?
So
What else we got?
two more. So peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You going strawberry jelly or grape jelly?
Oh, it's gonna be great.
I like
That'd
that.
be great.
I
I'm
like
staying
that.
on an island by myself.
Grape Kool-Aid, grape jelly.
Oh, I do like grape Kool-Aid.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Kool-Aid man.
And,
Oh yeah.
and
Sugar water
grape,
purple.
grape Gatorade.
Grape Gatorade. That's
Yeah, I like that too.
I do like grape Gatorade. And then last one. This one is very, very important. I can't stress the importance of this.
Yeah, this is like a hot debated topic on this podcast.
So, Jimmy John's or Jersey Mike's sub shop?
Oh boy. Man, I had a bad experience with the Jimmy Johns.
Oh, this could be crucial.
That's right, you did.
This could be
I
crucial.
gotta go with the Jersey guys on that.
Oh,
Woo!
Wow.
Mabry, did you hear what this man builds rockets? He knows more than you.
Jimmy John's suck.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
all from Alabama majors.
maybe you know how you build houses? He builds rockets. So
Yeah.
I mean,
So Mabry,
Some
I
things
think
are more
it's pretty
important than
clear.
others.
Yeah. So that was fun, Caleb.
Thanks, Caleb.
yeah, that's all
Good
I got.
job. Yeah, well, good.
I'm done talking for the
Are
rest
we
of the
done
podcast.
here for the day?
Yeah, that's it.
Well, I'm done basically, but
All right. So, Tim, I'm going to give you a little bit of time. Just tell us a little bit about yourself. It can be career stuff, family stuff. Just kind of, let us know what you've been doing over the past X amount of years.
100 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Born in Huntsville, Alabama, Lee High School graduate. Never going to go to college. Chased a girl to college. Went fishing the whole year. Flunked out of college. That was Jacksonville State. Decided I was going to college 3 days before, and I told my dad. He said, son, your grades aren't that good. We'll pay here at home. So I went to college. I sold my car to pay the rent, live with a buddy. ate out of cans for all year. It was rough, but I caught a lot of crappie. It was good for that. So it wasn't until later in life that I got abused enough to get real with education. Decided while working at Chrysler that I hate this place. It was the abuse. So I went on and learned a lot about a lot of things. Took a lot of classes and everything, and ultimately, my wife said, you can't have a major in astronomy, da-da-da. She said, you're going to do something. You've got 120 hours and you have no direction. You got to get a degree in something. And she says, you're going to be a business major. I said, okay. And that was about 7 years. That was about 1990. So there you go. Next thing you know, I'm doing I'm doing rockets on the side, guys. When I say I'm doing rockets, I'm designing rocket engines. I want to put one on a bike. I want to put one on a car. I want to do all this crazy stuff. But, eventually I got drug into the math and the science of it all, and it's like, oh, my gosh, this is going to be hard. And eventually I was able to conquer some of that on my own, self-taught. And my degree, I never finished an engineering degree, but I worked for 25 years as an engineer in propulsion of rockets. And it's just passion, guys. That's all I can tell you is I'm very passionate and I'm very OCD about topics that I get interested in. Mm-hmm. Sort of like some of you guys talk about going down rabbit holes and this and that. I'm no different, and James knows that. Some things I'm good at, and some things I'm just suck at.
So I think it's funny that you just said. I did rockets on the side, as if that's like a totally normal thing to do.
So
on the side.
what was the main thing if rockets were on the side?
Well, I just first of all, I wanted to own a lathe. I needed a lathe to turn metal to make real stuff. And I needed a milling machine. We didn't have money. And I went to government auctions at NASA. This is way about the time the internet was coming alive. And I would buy something like a couple of pieces of equipment that I knew were worth a lot. Mm-hmm. And I would bring them home and I'd flip them. And that money would go to pay for stuff in the garage. So in 1994, I met a bunch of guys here in town at an event called the Huntsville, Alabama L5 Society, and they were talking about we're going to launch a bug into space. Didn't know how they were going to do it. They were going to use a balloon and a rocket.
You're going to launch what?
Like a roach or
a
mouse.
bug.
I thought like VW bug.
No,
What?
But guys,
Like an actual bug, like a living
organism. Yes. Cute little ant or something, and
we decided on Dalmatian puppy.
and I thought that's interesting, and I thought, boy, my dad's got 120 acres out the other side, out near Gurley, and I thought, man, I'd love to test rockets out there. I was already doing some of this stuff, so I talked those guys into letting me play with. I said, why don't you guys let's build a test stand at my dad's out in the country, and they didn't know me from Adam. And here I am with this little business degree, and I'm talking about I'm going to design a rocket. And they thought I was nuts. And they said, we could talk about it. We could talk about it, a month or two later. But eventually I showed them some stuff. I said, I think we could take nitrous oxide, laughing gas, and use asphalt, roof and tar, and make a heck of a hybrid rocket. And that hybrid meaning it's not a liquid, it's not a solid, it's both. And we did that. And by the way, guys, we took a project on and we built it in my garage. We launched it in '96, and we were in the Guinness Book of World Record for the highest amateur rocket ever flown.
Oh my gosh,
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
that is very cool.
The bottle rocket I shot when I was 18. I think that might have been up there pretty close. But
So the thing I did with the what's the thing?
Mentos?
Yeah, the Mentos and the stuff. So that's not as cool. That's not as cool anymore.
So everybody can go on your website, timpickens.com, and see some of this cool stuff. I'd have it pulled up here, but you put something that you just touched on quickly, but you put a rocket on a bicycle.
Oh, yeah.
And then it just dawned on me. I was watching your video of some of it, and you were saying something about running out of asphalt. And I was like, there's plenty of road. I don't know what it's not going to run out of asphalt.
You got lots of
And then until you just said it now, I was like, oh, he meant like the making
Fuel.
Yeah, he meant fuel.
Right.
I was
Fuel
like,
for the
I was like, there's no way this guy's going to run out of asphalt. There's plenty of room.
Oh, I got it. Okay.
Could you imagine being in a high stress situation? It's
we're
like,
going.
guys, we're running out of asphalt. It's like, what?
In this video that I watched,
Fuel power.
you were having problems lighting it. So you took a coat hanger and what the heck was it? A coat hanger and something, and you got the thing lit, and they were like, he's about to light this rocket with a coat hanger. It's like
Well, that was some cannon fuse and a code
Cannon
hanger
fuse.
and a piece of pyrotechnic, actually black powder like you would get in a little Estes rocket. So the high-tech method of lighting was not working, pushing
Okay.
the buttons. So we were doing live TV, and I said, this is going to look like something on the Saturday morning TV show of Wile E. Coyote. But let's light it. I'm back there with the match lighting this thing, and it was really starting to freak everybody out because I was, quote, an expert. But we did end up lighting it, and we about crashed it because it would turn out the mountain bike's front wheel was not tightening. It was about
God.
to fall off at the end of this. It was a scary day, and that was for a TV show we did called Mad Scientist.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Okay.
How
And they found
fast?
you. That's amazing.
How fast does your rocket bike go?
It depends on how much courage you have.
Let's say
it will go.
Let's say I have James level courage.
If you are good at mountain biking and I'm not,
Oh, no.
Andrew.
Andrew.
because I don't have any kind of dampener on the steering, and as you know, they're not designed for high speed necessarily. I think about 0 to 60 in about 5 seconds.
Oh my gosh! Holy crap!
So there you
Yeah,
go.
you're gonna have to wobble.
Hey,
It's
no
horrible.
protective
It was-
equipment's needed.
No, it's it's terrifying. But I do have a throttle, so you can throttle it. And but it's a courage thing.
Oh my god! Yeah, it sounds like
Has
it.
anybody done it? Has anybody done it that fast?
It appears
Tim.
that in 3 seconds I was doing over 40. In fact, Paul Harvey, which you guys have never heard of, James probably has, but he was a
have.
famous news commentator, and he brought it up in one of his radio shows. He said, Tim Dickens has a bicycle, rocket powered, outruns a Porsche, 0 to 60 in 5 seconds. And I never talked to Paul Harvey. I don't know where he heard it, but he was pretty right.
So you were just talking to us about an experience you had racing Porsches and stuff. You should have taken your rocket bike down there and showed them how to
Yeah.
race with the.
I bet you the handling's pretty close.
Yeah.
The rocket bikes never made me nauseated. Driving the Porsche on a track at over 2 miles long and it's up and down, left and right, it was terrifying because I was racing other very let's call it calm people,
Yeah.
like a fighter pilot. Test pilot was one of them. And he's 72 years old, and I'm Ricky Bobby, man. I'm flipping out. And that was a weird deal. But anyways, another experience that just fell in my lap. I was very fortunate. But, it takes a lot of money to get into space as an astronaut. And I find myself in horizontal acceleration programs that I can afford. And these are rocket-powered trucks, bikes, jetpacks, things that I can fly and straddle and get even the rocket truck. You could put 4 people in the back of that thing and
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the rocket
and
truck
go
next.
fast. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's what did you use? A Dodge? What truck did you
I
use?
did have a Dodge, but what happened is,
Smart.
Chassis
Well,
forward.
when we were doing this TV show called Rocket Sea Rednecks, they called me, Travis Taylor, who's now doing Skinwalker Ranch. He called me and said, "Hey man, we're doing this rocket thing, and we're going to really need a lot of power." He said, "Don't you have some big rockets and stuff?" And I said, "Well, I've got this hybrid rocket that I designed for a rocket truck, and it's asphalt and it's nitrous, and it's got like 100 pounds of nitrous and about 12 pounds of asphalt." And I said, "I use an Xbox controller to fire the motor. And I just haven't got anybody who wants to pay to both ride with me and put the propellant in it could afford the nitrous." He said, "Well, I'm your guy, man. Let's do this. I got a show, man. We're going to talk about how somebody in let's say in a war zone, they get bogged down. They need some extra to get them out of a bad situation." So we brought the truck. We did that build in my shop, by the way, for the show. And Travis and those guys brought in an old Ford Ranger, a little beat-up truck. I'm thinking, no flipping way am I getting in that truck. But they just pressed on, saying, "This is it." And by the way, my motor and assembly with all the frame and everything, this thing weighed close to 1,000 pounds. And we're going to put that in the back of a Ranger, and we're going to go to the drag strip. We're going to crawl in there with no roll cage. And I'm thinking,
Oh, boy.
it ain't happening. So what I did later in the show, I said, I'm out. I ain't riding this thing, guys.
Yeah.
And I said, why don't, and by the way, Ford was their sponsor. And Travis had a company truck for Ford. And I said, he said, well, maybe this Ford truck would, I said, it's going to squat. It's going to be ugly, and it ain't going to help your sponsorship, man. And he said, well, okay. I said, I have a Chevy 2500 diesel 4x4. Let's go with that. And he said, I'll let you mess your truck up. Yes, let's go with yours. So that's what ended up happening, by the way. There's pictures of it on a Dodge, but that was another one that I owned. Never run that one.
Oh, okay.
So when you say
Yet.
say hybrid missile, what makes it hybrid compared to like a regular missile? Just wondering.
Well, we have solid rocket motor stuff. That's where you have the chemicals, the oxidizer, and fuel. They're mixed together. Okay. And when you light it, you can't cut them off. And that's what you see in a lot of the missiles you see in the war zones and the solid rocket motors on the shuttle. They used to be that's what they were. You couldn't cut them off. And hybrid, a liquid rocket is where you have a liquid oxidizer and a liquid fuel. Let's say alcohol is the fuel. Let's say liquid oxygen is the oxidizer. Okay. For mine, it's a liquid oxidizer, nitrous. Yeah. And the fuel is solid, so it's a hybrid. It's two different things. It's
combining together.
Some people in rocketry say it's the worst of both worlds. It's the worst of the. In other words, the characteristics of its operation. It's the worst of the solids. It's the worst of the liquids because there's a lot of reasons for it. But there's a lot of dynamics, a lot of changing that happens when you burn it. Where a solid, you can light it on one end, and it can consistently burn all the way till the propellant's gone. Yeah. But with a hybrid, the fuel's changing shape, and it's changing the mixture ratios, and it's just really and it can start acting up and having these modes where it sounds like a tuba, and it's really can be crazy. In fact, working Spaceship Two, which we could talk about that later. They've had a lot of those what we call combustion instabilities. Let's just say if you're riding that, if you can tolerate a very high amplitude 6 hertz mode where you're feeling nauseated while you're riding and it's shaking you a lot. Let's just say your stomach's displacing 3 or 4 inches during that exercise, but that's the kind of thing they have to fight, because if you're selling to people to have an amazing ride to space, you don't want them vomiting when they get along the way, right?
That's fair.
Jeff
it just
Bezos.
takes something out of the whole experience.
Jeff Bezos rocket to space.
There's like some argument about that. Is he was like, they were like, you didn't go to space, and he was like, no, I did. And they were like, you went real high, but you didn't go to space. He was like, yeah, because what's his face, the other guy, super rich guy.
Oh, Virgin
Mobile guy went up, did the same thing, and Jeff Bezos just went like a little higher.
No, didn't they break the Von Karman?
They did. They did. In fact,
the what?
The Blues.
Von Karman. That's how it's pronounced.
Is that the
right?
line for? Is that the line to go into space?
It's 100 kilometers.
Okay. Yeah.
And generally, a little.
Okay.
Where do like
100 kilometers is 62.4 miles, by the way.
Just to give people a reference, like where do like commercial airplanes fly at? Like
35,000 or so.
Yeah,
feet.
about 35,000 feet.
So this is another like.
That's way high up there.
Yeah,
much,
90, yeah.
It is up there. Yeah.
Keep in mind when Alan Shepard launched on the Redstone rocket, he went to, what was it? Actually, X-15 went to 67 miles. That was the flying airplane, and that was like an upper limit. And then, but all of them were suborbital. They're up and down.
Yeah.
Most of them that didn't have wings, they didn't have any cross range, so the flights were short. Even look at Bezos; he's up and down in 15 minutes.
Is that all it took?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, his also looked like a big penis too. So
It does. It does. And
Just like Austin Powers. I've seen that movie.
It's very aerodynamic.
it's
he's Austin. He's
Oh,
Austin
yeah.
Powers. He's
you can tell men design these things. And it's just clearly.
Wait, is that what your guys' meetings are like? It's like, what's wrong with this? It doesn't look enough like a penis.
It's clearly designed by a Jewish boy or something, and it's got something different about it. And so there you have it. And but it is true. The U.S. definition of an astronaut is 50 miles. By the way.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
miles.
and it's the international definition is 62 miles or 100 kilometers.
Interesting.
So, and that's what they did is back in the days when they were flying like the X-15. Now, you had the Bell X-1, Chuck Yeager, sound barrier breaker, first one.
Okay.
And then later when they got bigger and faster things, eventually people wanted to say, I've been to space. They'd get these astronaut wings. So they decided to wing people, give them the wings at 50 miles. And that's where that came about. So when the business of carrying people that are paying passengers, let's call them tourists. That's what they're calling them.
Yeah.
They want to make sure they get their wings that mean something. So in the U.S., if you're Virgin Galactic, you're going 50 miles, guys. You're going 52 miles. You're not going the 62 miles. You're not going to be. Everyone's going to laugh at you when you get off the plane in Europe and say you're not a real man. That's not a rocket. Hey, we don't recognize you. So it's not going to be good. And then if you're, Jeff Bezos, you've got that really cool rocket that, like James said, would hit the Von Karman, and you could wear that little sticker, and then you'd have the 62-mile club, right?
It's all about the
It's all
fans.
So
good.
62 miles. 62 miles is important.
Yes, it is.
62 miles is important.
Yeah.
I always hit the Von Carmichael. Never missed it.
Every time.
Yeah.
5 for 5, baby.
Yeah, 5
What's
for
the
5.
Mile High Club? No, just kidding.
Yeah, Tim, you have a story about that, right?
Don't talk about these
Hey.
things.
Hold on, I would like to hear.
Those are urban legends, son. Urban legends.
I mean, I guess if you can build your own rocket, possibilities are endless.
That's right.
Yeah, it's but growing up in Huntsville, going to the Space and Rocket Center, and you see all these rockets, you're like, what in the world? Why didn't they launch these things? What a waste. It really was sort of depressing. I lived in Huntsville my whole life, and I don't know. I looked at the hardware and thought, man, this is expensive. Man, it's expensive. Why can't we go to space? What would it take to get a rocket? How could you do this on the cheap? It was always a challenge of mine, and for you guys, and the gym guys, how do I get fit cut for the least amount of work, right?
That's right. That's
I
fair.
know that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
That's exactly right.
That's
every
what I
day.
want to do. How do I get the highest and the fastest for not much money? And so I figured I wanted to figure out like the steroids of rockets if there was such a thing. And
I'm still trying to figure that out. Honestly.
I know no one here would do that. But anyways,
No one.
I would
Not
want
a
to
chance.
cheat science if I could.
You seen James?
So
No,
Hey, it's called genetics. Just because you don't have any.
that's it.
Doesn't make any sense.
Where we at?
So we talked about the. I was going to ask. So you have your job that you go to every day with James, right?
Yes.
And then, but on the side, I'm sorry
When
about
he
that.
shows up.
James is my boss. Sort of.
Sort of.
Yeah, sorta.
Sort of.
So, but you
If
do.
anyone can rein them in.
Not really.
He's a manager, definitely, of me on at least one project.
Is he your only employee that you have to manage?
No.
Well, James was just telling me he had some young
So,
kids.
about that.
Yeah. So you do stuff on the side as well, because you have. I was going to bring that up. You have a man cave. It's what you call the man cave.
Oh, yeah.
And if you can go to the Tim's website and look at the man cave. But it's more than a man. It's not like somewhere where you go and like shoot pool and hang out. It's like
That's
some pretty
right.
crazy stuff. So if you could explain that a little bit, that'd be awesome.
Well, I don't know, guys. As a kid, we didn't have much money, and I always just dreamed of having tools to do stuff. And that was really it. When we wanted a bicycle in my family, there were 6 kids growing up in the 60s. We would get stuff out of the garbage and fix it. And that's where you get your bike. That's where you get your washer and dryer. That's where you get your color TV. You put the tubes in, and we had a tube tester. We were junk people.
So you would, at young, would pull stuff out of the dumpster and fix it and make it work?
Sure. I may not. I would be more the one who would tear it up. At that age, I was the baby of the family, and, and there's 6 of us. I would definitely be the one to take it apart and not know how to put it back together. But that's, I'm sure James has done that before.
I have. Yeah.
But no, yeah, we that's how we did it, man. We didn't have any money. My dad was working on a physics degree, but he was a technician, man. He went to the Navy, but he later would become a physicist. But while raising 6 kids, but yeah, we were. These were good challenges, man. Not to have anything growing up was really good because it taught me to be incredibly resourceful. How do you make stuff with not many tools and resources? And it also taught me how to pull other people in to be part of the journey. Doing horse trading and bargaining and. Find that hook for marketing. Say, hey, I'm building this wacky thing. You want to be my test pilot?
Yeah.
And that worked out sometimes. And sometimes people got hurt. And that's just the way it goes sometimes when you're designing machines that
sometimes they have
are
casualties.
extreme.
Yeah.
Well, that absolutely has happened. And people, my buddies would punch
can't make an
me.
omelet without breaking some eggs.
Well, they punched me in the gut. I'm like, I built it. You can at least ride this thing. And they would. There's a lot of people out there who don't know any better, and they'll ride.
I feel like you didn't get to meet Mabry today, but Mabry's one of the guys that if you were like, you want to ride this rocket bike? You'd be like, yeah, what's the worst that could happen? And you'd be like, well, I think a lot could happen. You'd be like, nah, I'll be all right.
Yeah, beat it up.
Do you want a helmet?
It's like a helmet.
I got this.
So these pictures on your website, the man cave, are these current pictures?
No, I got a better man cave than that now.
Okay, 'cause I was gonna ask because
You look young.
Wood paneling in the back there.
Thank you.
I mean,
yes, this was before the Botox, but I was definitely younger. And this is a house made in the 70s, 60s. So yeah, it reflects.
Okay.
It reflects. That's the garage. But these are the kind of tools that I have at. I've got another house I built down the lake, and I sold this one not 3 years ago.
Okay.
So, guys, I've got a brand new setup. It's on the lake. It's on a point. So now we have water. There's a rocket belt we built right there on the end. That was parts from Home Depot. We built that.
This right here?
Yes. Those are PVC pipes on the left and right side. There is nothing about that.
Oh, I see them.
In fact, I don't think I had to even use the lathe to make this.
All right, now you're saying that's a rocket bike, but is that
Belt.
rocket belt?
Jetpack.
I'm sorry.
Jetpack.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I was going to say
on the
that-
water.
Is that the one that goes on the water or the?
Yeah,
Okay,
this
because
was-
you've built others.
That's right. I built one with a guy named Mark Wells. It was for peroxide. There's no water hose attached to it. It's no joke.
True rocket man.
Dangerous 1,200, 1,400 degree steam coming out of pipes to your left and right.
How high is he going in something like that?
This one could go, you want to fly probably up to about 30 feet. And that one, my daughter was my test pilot on that. She was 12, and I was a little heavy for it, and it wouldn't get out of the water, but she did very well. She looped. Awesome. She went up, and we flipped her, and she avoided the piers.
So
because
you're
we were right there at the pier, and she did very well. There's videos out there on the internet.
I saw that one. Now that you reminded, I saw that one.
You're controlling it, like you're controlling.
She's controlling it.
Okay.
All I do is run the jet ski wide open. It's pumping the water. And her job is to keep the nozzles behind her, pointed behind her, so it's pulling the jet ski around.
Okay.
Like it's sort of like a kite. You know when you have that string on a kite?
Yeah.
You've got the wind blowing. Well, that wind is equivalent to the water thrusting.
Okay.
And you've got this hose as a great tether like the string. Now, once you loop over and back toward the jet ski, you don't have that tension. So now it's chaos. You can flip, you can flop, you can fly the sky.
Oh, boy.
So you gotta, at 12 years old, it's hard to convey to your daughter, don't do that. And, so I'm saying, just let your feet come out of the water. Just raise the nozzles up. but keep it tight behind you. So, but there is some video of her just kind of flipping out. I didn't know if we were going to get her through it, but she.
So
I'll try to post some of these videos.
She's doing good, guys, and
she's fine.
Nobody come to visit us over that one.
I love it. I mean, I love everything that you're saying.
Okay.
So this is amazing. That go ahead, Caleb.
No, I was just gonna. Did you have any kind of like neighbors that were like, "Hey, what are you doing with your daughter down there?" Like about to like
No, these neighbors are cool, man. They're all about. We probably had 50 people out there looking at it,
awesome.
saying,
sure.
I'll ride it. Get her. I ride it. I drive a skid steer, son. I can drive this thing. Because they saw the handles. They're like, boy, I could tear it up. Y'all hold my beer. Watch this. And no, this is in the country. We're doing this about 2 hours away on Weiss Lake, and there's a lot of people that are bold. Who they like that, hold my beer and watch this stuff. They're there for you.
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
But no, we're good entertainment, and that's
Yeah.
what we
I
are.
bet.
That's where we are now, and we've got these pictures don't reflect the new reality, but I've showed James some pictures.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty cool, man.
That's beautiful.
I haven't really talked about it that much because I'm not over there that often, and it's a lot of stuff to show people to come and take to the pawn shop.
Sure.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't talk about it a whole lot, but yes, this stuff does exist.
that's all. I mean,
just-
So you made this one that goes in water, and then you made
two of those.
and then you made another one that doesn't need water. It just goes up in the
No,
air like a normal
Right.
jetpack.
You will fly.
Well, you will.
jetpack.
And I was 90% done with this one. And a guy called me from England, a guy named Stuart Ross. And he says, hey, I'm an airline pilot and I'd like to buy your rocket bike. I see you have a belt. And he said, I see you have these great pictures. I'm going to fly. He said, I'm commercial. I can afford it. He said, I'll give you this much money if you'll sell it to me. So I said, okay. But it's all you, man. I don't hear no calls from your lawyers and all that bull. And so about 3 years later, there's a picture of him on a tether. And you could go look it up. Stuart Ross rocket belt. And there's a
search it right
picture of him spinning up like a top with a tether.
Oh, it's
and he's
bad.
going horizontal, left, right.
Oh,
and
it's
it's
bad.
bizarre. And that was my machine. But it takes about 25 or 30 flights using 90% peroxide to learn to master this before you want to get off the tether. It was terrifying, but this was my belt. And in fact, there's a book out about rocket belts, and they mentioned him buying my stuff. But a friend of ours named Mark Wells designed a lot of the stuff that was on it, and he built parts, and I did too. He's a genius, local guy, great guy, and he's a guru, man. A lot of these guys that you see flying at these ball games with jetpacks and stuff. Mark has built a lot of the hardware that's really hard to do, like the throttles and.
So I was just heard something the other day that they were trying to use jetpacks as they were trying to figure them out because they could only really fly for 30 seconds or
That's
45
right.
seconds. Are they still trying to figure that out? Or is it a personal flight device, or are they nah, we'll just...
No, this is on, man. It's on.
Okay.
Like Donkey Kong. These guys are. It was peroxide forever. I mean, the Army right out here at the Army in Huntsville, they developed jetpacks to fly at the 30 seconds, just like you saw in the James Bond, one of the way backs. I forget which one it was. That's a real rocket belt. That was not a stunt. It was pull it out of the back seat and fly it. And that was developed here in Huntsville, by the way. And
Dang.
Bell, a company called Bell Aerospace, did a lot of the rocket engines.
That's cool.
It's a real deal. And that technology didn't really advance until composite, carbon fiber
okay,
came
yeah,
along.
yeah.
And that helped them get maybe another 15 seconds. So up to 50 seconds. If you get a little crackhead flying one
Yeah.
that doesn't weigh anything,
Yeah.
you might could get a minute, man, but he's going to have to look like a little stick. And
And a minute's a long time,
there
right?
was one pilot
Right.
who really
Right.
got. There was one of the pilots. That's exactly what happened. He got don't crack, and he'd get some long flight times and he would forgo fast. I'm not going to say what his name was, but I hope he's doing better.
James.
James, he's working out in Huntsville now. But just true story. But now they're going to jet engines. They're going to strapping jet engines to their backs and.
what?
Oh yeah.
No, you can get a miniature jet engine.
And people are willing to put that on their back?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
How far does that take them up in the air?
They can run. Some of them are running 10 minutes.
Yeah, they're like a flying wing.
What?
It's like a wing.
There's
Yeah,
that one. That the jet wing weighs a little more, so they don't take off from the ground with that. But they'll hop out of a plane
Oh God.
with a wing, with an engine running, while they, they'll fire it up in the back.
Yeah, you're basically a human jet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Is this the future of transportation?
That's cool.
Is that what I'm hearing?
You're
right now?
describing Iron Man.
I know.
Oh, it's Iron Man.
They fly like him. Yeah.
But and then now that gives you some hope because you have a wing, you can kind of glide. Get a little
Gives you
bit.
hope.
There's some cross range.
Yeah.
Now when you're just running a jet, and let's say your fuel line stops
just
up,
go.
you're falling out of the sky. You better have a parachute, something. I don't know, but
So it's kind of the difference between like a jet and then like a missile, basically. So there's just like a projectile
absolutely.
going like.
Yes, you're
Not
just
able to slow
hoping
themselves down
everything
at
is
all.
going right. You're hoping that little controller is running. It's like a quadcopter, If it loses where it is with the GPS, they'll flip out and crash and all those little things that you see flying. I don't care if it's a $50,000 unit. They're bad days when the electronics don't work. And James have seen this. And I'm telling you guys, people are flying these things and trusting that electronics. They're standing on platforms with 4 propellers left and right, and they're flying in their backyards. This is a different time. And I'm telling you, the jet engine people, there used to be, if a single jet engine on your back was a real hard thing to control because you've got these counter rotation forces. So it would want to spin you around because it's creating torque.
Oh, okay.
So then they got some jet engine company to design an engine that would be counter rotating. So then if you have 2 of those back there, now you can balance that.
More
Does
is
this
better.
make sense? And then they have, so that may give you, let's say, 90% of the thrust to get you off the ground. Then they have these other things, jet engines on their arms, like 4.
It's Iron Man.
And those are throttling. So those will give it the extra 10%
Have y'all
to
seen
get
that?
to
I
get
think
you
I
off the
have,
ground.
yeah.
I think I have seen this now that you're talking about
this is
it.
real, man. This guy over across the pond, he does this stuff all the time, man. He's incredible. He can fly. He can land on a boat. He can land on I'm talking a moving
crazy.
boat. Yeah, it's Iron Man stuff. It's awesome.
Golly.
I
I think it's so
want
funny. It's like, hey, we can't. This is one engine has too much torque. What should we do? It's like you should put a second engine on it.
That's it, man.
Genius.
Yeah, and
Seen it
really,
1,000 times.
Yeah, and really, you almost want 4 of those with less
Obviously.
with less thrust, because if I lose one of them, I want to sort of have a chance of touching down.
That's fair.
You follow me?
I mean, we've all seen Iron Man where he loses one of his engines in his arm. And
Yeah.
he
But luckily he
spins
has 3
circles.
others.
It's the same thing,
It
guys.
balances it out.
And this
so
guy,
funny.
That's amazing.
It is cool. He leans forward, so his front jet engines, they're sort of giving him balance, like a 4-legged table.
Oh, gotcha.
And then he's sort of, when he starts leaning, kind of pushing them back, the thrust starts moving them forward. And it's a lot of shoulder. It takes a lot of shoulder forces.
James?
Okay.
I was going to say, James?
You're pretty
All
good
right,
doing
let's try it.
dips, James. Are you good at dipping?
James can do some dips.
Oh yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it's real, man.
Dang.
That's crazy. I mean, that's amazing.
So this may be something that people do now, huh?
Exactly.
So
fly with rocket packs?
Are these the unidentified flying objects in in the air? Is that what's going on here?
good
Is that what
transition.
we're seeing?
There is one that there is one that has spotted in L.A. someone flying as high as 7,500 feet. The jet airline pilots are reporting it's happened more than once. You ought to look it up.
A person, one guy.
Absolutely. And they call it the Iron Man. They don't know who it is, but he's up there flying a jetpack at the altitudes, and they've reported it,
7,500 feet.
down around, El Segundo or somewhere down that area.
Isn't Top Gun around there?
It's Iron Man. It's the real deal, man.
Top Gun's a
Serious.
movie.
They're trying
Tom
to find
Cruise is out there flying a jetpack.
It could be Tom Cruise. Yeah, we don't.
I'd see it.
Yeah.
It's true.
He's a
He's-
lizard.
He's
actually.
jet.
rehearsing a role for Rain Man 2. In Rain Man 2, he needs a jetpack.
But
Isn't he an actual lizard though?
Elizabeth-
We don't know. We're
Isn't
not
that a
sure.
conspiracy theory that
Yeah,
he's
he's
one of
a
the elites, that he's a lizard?
Right.
Yeah,
Scientology.
that he eats people. Yeah.
I mean,
Okay,
if
we
he's
got
not
it,
one
yeah.
of the elites, I don't know who is.
Oh yeah, it would be John Travolta or John Travolta, I guess. It would be, right?
John Travolta. I like that. So you also worked with. So we all watched. What did you watch? Skinwalker.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
We all watched the Skinwalker Ranch documentary on Netflix. But before the guy that owns it now, what's the guy's name now? I forget now.
Fugel.
Yeah, that guy. Bigelow owned it, and
Right.
you used to work with Bigelow, correct?
That's correct.
What did you used to do with him?
Well, I was a contractor designing rocket motors for his manned space station. It was called a BA-330, and it was an inflatable space hotel, and it was for
Crazy.
Bigelow is a billionaire. He earned his money with hotel chains. In fact, Budget Suites of America is his deal, headquartered in Vegas, and
It's a good spot to have a hotel.
oh yeah, he's right there. He gets to see all those Jane flights out to Area 51, which is another story. And but Bigelow has spent more money on UFO research than anyone probably on the planet.
This is crazy that I heard this.
What?
Like he spent more money than like they say the government. Like he has spent more money than anybody.
Yeah, of course the government has the black budgets. We don't know
Yeah.
how much they're
That's fair,
spending,
fair.
but they are incredible. They don't have accountability. So
Yeah, that's nice.
we don't know that, but it is interesting. The government did give him a contract to look at videos of some unknown activity.
They gave him a contract.
Absolutely,
Wow.
it was a whistleblower that brought it out. It was I forget the congressman's name, but he I think they got $10 million to look at this UAP phenomena.
Okay.
This unidentified aerial phenomena they call it now.
What was it? Was there a name to it? Was there something that it was like taglined as, like the contract or something?
Yeah, it was Harry. What was his name? Harry. Let's look up.
Sure, we can look up.
That's hush money. Harry.
He was a congressman.
Yeah, with this type
'Cause
Bigelow.
I think I remember hearing about this
Yeah.
where a private individual, Bigelow, and the government cooperated, creating this contract to kind of investigate into
That's right. And it was not known, but it was a whistleblower that let that be known. And guys, I got to spend quite a bit of time with Bob Bigelow.
Yeah.
I met him at a conference, and I was running Orion Propulsion.
Was it Ron DeSantis?
No, that would have been Florida. This guy's name, Harry Reid.
Harry Reid. Oh yeah, I heard that. I heard that. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So I met Bob at a conference, and I was fascinated with the fact that he was building inflatable space hotels. He's going to get us off the planet, and he's going to do it affordably. Yes, sir. What's the question?
What kind of conference was it? If you
It
don't
was a
Comic-Con.
It was we were building rubber band balls, and that was quite a weekend.
I didn't know there was conferences for that.
Oh yeah, man! I've been doing that for years, and
the only
was
reason
it,
I
though?
ask is
What was it?
it wasn't space missile defense. It was actually a alt space conference out west, and then there's this the standard conferences where you'll have the space people get together, and there'll be there's missile defense here, but there are NASA conferences. There've been a lot of conferences over the years, but some of them are, like I said, alt space, commercial space conferences.
Okay.
I met him, and he was talking about, he was one of the speakers, and they was talking about the technology and how they were going to take water and from, pee and urine and sweat. You guys got a lot of sweat around here. And
Yeah, we do.
Well, what we could do for you is we could take your sweat and urine, and we can do some filtering, and we can do something called electrolysis, and we're going to make hydrogen and oxygen from that. We don't need the hydrogen to live on. We need the oxygen to live in space. So what we did is he asked me to design a rocket engine that could run on a lot of hydrogen and a little bit of oxygen. So I got a contract. It was $4.8 million to develop 2 ship sets. That would have been a total of 16 thrusters. 8 of them would fly, but these would be used to maneuver it around.
Okay.
And that propellant come from sweat and urine of living and working in space.
Wow.
So you'd pee in space, and that would be fuel.
It's a PP rocket.
It's a PP rocket.
Yes, it's a PP. And it was quite amazing.
The marketing possibilities are endless.
I mean, I'm just picturing my
It
mind
could
here.
be urnses and urnses. And,
But so like I can understand how you collect the urine. I mean, that's pretty. How are you collecting the sweat?
Condensation. Think about an air conditioner. Think about
Okay, so not like human sweat, but like sweat off of like a.
No, it's
like
human sweat.
Oh.
It's whatever you're doing. You're perspiring. It's going somewhere. It's going through a filtration. Just imagine an AC system and it's condensating.
In space.
And it's being
Oh,
collected.
I gotcha. I understand what you're saying.
In space, you know,
Close a
it's
little
there's
more.
probably a method to wick that condensation. You know, you can't just have water filling up a cup of water in space, but
Just
there
be
are
like-
ways
just
to,
like this.
to use surface tension to get the to
Take
do
some of
these.
this titty sweat.
Yeah, exactly.
Some of that, man.
Some of that.
Man or other.
I'm trying to get us home.
Stop asking what I'm doing, John.
Ride the stationary
Dave.
bike harder. The thrusters aren't working. Get Big Mona in here.
Between me and James, we could probably fuel one of those rockets with sweat.
we could.
Yeah.
Well, you guys would
On a
be
good
more-
day, we may go to Pluto.
Yeah, you guys would be
put it
better
as a
suited
planet.
for my methane thruster.
All joking aside, have you made one that runs on farts? Because I'm very interested.
Absolutely did a methane thruster. And the problem is you boys can't generate enough pressure to feed my device.
I have.
You haven't seen me after
We need
Taco
a boost.
Bell.
We need a boost pump if we're going to use you for getting us to space.
I have a 3-week-old at home that I think she could have generated enough pressure. She farted 2 feet to the wall and got
Projectile.
Exactly. Yeah.
We haven't.
I mean, that's
we don't
pretty
even know
impressive,
what
right?
to do with the solids there, but you know,
It's like it's got to be gas.
maybe she'll be a future astronaut. Who knows?
Does live in Huntsville. So.
All right, this is good stuff. Well, but Bigelow is an amazing guy, and and I'm reading up on Bigelow, and I'm thinking, man, this guy's into the UFO stuff, big time, man. I'm like, okay. Once I got my contract, he says, you're not getting this contract unless you personally step down as the CEO and you're going to be the chief engineer and make sure this project runs well and make it happen. Huh. And I thought, crap, this is the biggest contract I ever had, by the way. We're only about 3 years in business, and we've got no quality program. Who else is going to give us a man-rated hardware program? And we're barely started. We're about 10 or 12 people, and I'm thinking, boy, this will be huge. So little did I know, getting to know him on the side, he had this private thing. It's called, it's a special program for science. So he studies advanced science. In fact, it's called, was it NIDS? In fact, I have to look it up. But he had some special program where he was studying UFO phenomena, anti-gravity. He had a lot of PhDs working for him, and they were in Texas, and they were doing a lot of secret stuff. They wanted to know what was the technology that would propel you without using, let's say, rocket propulsion as we know it, chemicals. His parents saw a UFO out in the desert when he was young, and it impacted them tremendously.
Gotcha.
And they would tell these stories about how this thing hovered over them and chased them down, seemingly chasing them across the desert. And it impacted him, and he wanted to get to the bottom of this. And it became his passion. As he became wealthy, man, did he spend a lot of money on this. And there were stories, he didn't tell this stuff, by the way. This research he was doing, when I started finding out more about it, I'm asking people that work at Bigelow, I'm saying, tell me about the special stuff going on.
Yeah.
What do you know? And
What goes on in the back room?
Yeah.
And I finally,
level 11.
I met a cool guy who's an IT guy, and he'd been with them for 20 plus years.
Oh wow.
So he did his home and a lot of other cool stuff where, he did the ranch,
Oh, okay.
set up the ranch and a lot of cameras and a lot of other cool stuff.
Oh, wow.
So I'm getting to talk to this guy, and he's not talking much. Now, when you work for a billionaire, everyone who works for him, they're making a lot of money.
Sure.
They're making a lot. And you don't talk about anything because you may find yourself in a lawsuit.
Gotcha.
And believe
okay.
me, is it worth you talking about, or would you rather enjoy the cool work? Or do you want to go around talking about it? So it don't happen.
That's fair.
So people don't talk. And Bigelow is very hush-hush about what he referred to as the woo-woo project.
woo-woo.
Yeah, the woo woo, the sort of the spook or the woo woo, the anti gravity,
Gotcha.
the weird stuff.
The elephant in the room.
Because there is a real stigma that goes with it. If people think you're believing in UFOs, you really believe that stuff? Are you kidding? Right. And I'm telling you, he was talking about it. There's a lot of interviews out there if you look them up. But at a conference, another time I was having lunch with him, and I said, "Tell me about your anti-gravity stuff, Stan, if you can." He said, "Well, I really can't talk about it, I said, "Tell me about the woo-woo." And
What about the woo-woo?
bring me woo-woo now. And so,
I want to know about your woo-woo.
yeah.
Excuse me?
Fire.
Tell me when to stop. It's like, you woo woo.
Well, that's what I should have said. Woo, 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 woo. Are you a Three Stooges fan?
Yes.
But he really, I said, listen, didn't you go overseas and do some research on some stuff? Because I had heard through the grapevine. And I said, tell me, didn't you do some anti-gravity experiments? He said, well, a little bit. I said, why would you go to Russia to do something like, testing something? He said, well, there were really ethical and religious things that would not fly in this country. Huh. There were reasons that would really prevent us from doing that.
Okay.
He said I couldn't get into it, but I had heard from one of his other employees that they actually had one person, it was this magnetic high flux device of some sort. When I say flux, I mean the strength of a magnet field. That's where an MRI would be a very high flux machine, Yeah. So what he said is, well, I think they had one guy actually die over there, and another guy went kind of crazy. And, and they're seeing that now. The government is starting to bring cases forward here in this country. People that were exposed to something they saw, there are real psychological effects. And there are degenerative things about their brain scans and stuff that indicate something. They were, either saw radiation.
Right.
Huh.
And these are measurable things. These aren't just, hey, what'd you see and how many were there? It was really things that you can see. And so Bigelow telling me this, and I said, Bob, listen, I know you don't want to talk about it. I said, but tell me this. I said, of all the books that are out there, and there's a ton of UFO books and anti-gravity and all this stuff. You hear everything about the Russian Bell, the Nazi Bell experiment. That's the flying saucer that supposedly they didn't have ready for prime time during World War II, but it probably went to Texas when they brought the Germans over after World War II.
Yeah.
It probably went to Fort Bliss and on that. That's where they spent over a year debriefing, working on rockets, flying V2s they brought over.
Right.
So imagine the discussions they had with the William Tellers and the others that were up the road, not far from there, Los Alamos.
Los Alamos.
So, I always wondered, why'd they go to Texas, and then they come to Huntsville. I think it was to cool down. I think it was also mainly to debrief them.
Sure.
See who was really going to be somebody that wouldn't double cross us, after World War II.
So you think that the Nazis definitely had some crazy technology that we brought over here?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do. In fact, there is still a platform over there in Germany, big concrete platform where it was theorized that one of these devices was tested, and there's still these huge big harnesses where this power. They were running it with some sort of power, on the ground power system.
Gotcha.
Absolutely. And I knew Konrad Dannenberg very well, by the way. He was one of the German rocket scientists. Knew him for years. I'm sure you've probably met him, James, at some point. One of the Germans from the...
Haven't met him, saw him speak.
Okay. Well, I knew him and his wife, and his wife, in fact, still is here in Huntsville. Yeah, man. I asked him, I said, surely. He said, well, there's not a program I was involved with, and
Denied.
And same with Ernest Stuhlinger. But Conrad designed propulsion. He was one of the main guys for the V2. And so I talked to another daughter that was born in Fort Bliss of one of the Germans, and she told me even recently, she said, I believe there was a very big program that was a craft. And I'd ask her, what, did your dad ever talk about? She had some evidence that pointed this direction, by the way. And she told me that she would love to talk about it sometime. And this was over a Christmas open house kind of deal here in town. And I didn't follow up on that. But guys, I'm telling you, I asked Bigelow this. This is important.
Yeah.
I said, of all the books out there, tell me, what is the absolute truth or is not just a bunch of bull that's going to waste my time, whether it's studying anti-gravity or free energy or whatever it is. He said, it's the Skinwalker book written by the Combs.
Okay.
Dr. Combs. No, Alan Combs, but Dr. Combs. And I said, hey, that's the same guy that does the ECLIS, which is Environmental Control and Life Support System for the BA 330. So he's a doctor. Okay. He's working in the plant with us, but he's wrote a book about he was in that special group, that research group, that other team. Okay. And he was leading that. And so he's now working here, but he's also he stood up that group for I don't know, 10 years. And then it sort of went away, but it really never existed publicly.
Okay.
But he was the guy. So I'm sitting here thinking, man, that's the guy who wrote the book. And so he didn't really want to talk about it, but Bigelow said it was 100% true. And I said, what does that mean? He said, well, everything we thought we knew was probably happening at the ranch, Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah.
And he owned it, at this time, obviously. He said, we thought we'd wrapped science around it. We'd had the best cameras. We had the best infrared technology. We had these multispectral cameras, and we had audio. We had all sort of magnetic devices to look at flux and frequencies. Sure. And we thought we had it all covered. And he said everything that we went in to get consistent data, repeatable data, he said everything was stood on its head. It was absolute chaos. Everything was chaos, and we thought we could predict it, day one. So, well, let's do that again tomorrow. Yeah. No, it's not going to happen that way. And this is exactly what they're seeing right now on the Travis Taylor, the History Channel, Skinwalker. They're saying this. They're saying, well, we really tried all this science. We don't really know what's going on, but when we poke the bear.
Yeah.
And it could be a sledgehammer in the side of the mesa, or it could be a rocket, or trying just to tick off whatever science is behind this. Yeah. And that's where these guys are, these scientists, PhDs, they're out there truly trying to wrap science around it, and it is just blowing their mind.
Wow.
So when Bigelow owned it, is it true that the research he did that was government funded is now classified? Because the guy that on Skinwalker Ranch, the new owner, said he can't get access to any of the research they did previously. So it's like they were starting from zero.
Scratch.
Yeah, and Bigelow's not sharing anything.
Sure.
And that's true. And as far as the videos, that was a contract from the government just to Bob Bigelow Aerospace, and it was classified information. And excuse me, I'll tell you, I talked to a lot of guys that went to the Skinwalker, and these were guards. Remember, if you go to Bigelow Aerospace, there's double razor wire fence. It's high. It's a compound, man. You're not going to get in and out of there. The guys are ex-military. They ride around four-wheelers. They got these ARs and, probably fully auto. This is Arizona. So I'm telling you, man, it's the Wild West. And, but they don't play. But I got to talking to him. One of them is from Birmingham, Alabama. And he said, hey, I missed I was a big Bama fan, da-da-da. And I said, man, did you ever spend any time at the ranch? He said, yeah, man. He said, that's a freaky place. He said, I don't like it.
Boy.
He said, I like going out there. And he said, in fact, we brought in a bunch of groceries one time, and we unloaded a bunch of stuff in the kitchen. He said, we like walking the other room, and next thing we know, we hear commotion. We go in there, and everything seemed to be in the floor. It was just thrown everywhere as chaos.
Oh, weird.
He said that happened. He said the guy one of the IT guys who set up the cameras. Now these are hardwired cameras. These are not back in the days. It wasn't a lot of wireless stuff.
Sure.
Yeah. And he said, man, we had all those wires get fried in one event and just evaporated in the metal poles and stuff. Didn't know what the heck it was. This guy was he was a Catholic guy, devout Catholic. He said, man, that's just demonic. He said, this stuff that was going on out there, he said, I don't want to be there. He said, man, it's a bad juju. I'm out. He did. He said, man, I don't like it out there. And think about it for a minute. You've got chaos going on. We're wrapping all this science around it. And Travis told me, in fact, I got a text from him first year, and I said, hey, what do you think? Are they crazy? And he said, well, I used to think they were drunk or smoking or on drugs. He said, now at least I know they weren't on drugs or smoking it. There's something there. And and I recently talked to Travis about 4 weeks ago and asked him about an incident we can talk about, and that's where he got gamma radiation dose.
Oh,
He got a gamma radiation dose?
Yeah, from a place that had no evidence of gamma.
Oh,
and he goes into this area looking down this well, and he got zapped, and it went through, he told me, his hand.
Oh wait, that was on one of the episodes,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
In his leg, and he said he ended up immediately. His dosimeters were going off.
Yeah.
And he said it was, and others were around him.
Yeah.
And he said, but he was the only one that seemed to get a direct hit.
Yeah.
And he knew from his education, he knew that, he said, I need to get something to flush my system. And he said, go get a case of beer now. and he did. He saw
the best remedy.
he started, he said he was slamming this case. And he said for 2 or 3 days, his pee was like black.
Oh, my Lord.
Really dark. And then he ended up getting cancer on his hand.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Yeah, and they had to remove it.
Holy moly.
So he got
His hands or the cancer?
So,
the cancer is doing well. Yes.
They got rid of that
It's kinda
pesky
hard to-
hand.
It's hard to communicate with Travis, but cancer's doing great. They removed him.
That's it.
gnarly.
You know what's
So I
crazy? Oh, go ahead, Caleb.
no, sorry. I guess the most important question here is, what was the case of beer? Was it like Budweiser or?
Good question. I didn't
Natty
ask
Lights?
him, but I will tell you he was taking it serious. He told me at this UAP event recently I went to a month ago, and that's unidentified aerial phenomena. And they bring in some of the people from the government who are trying to get to the bottom of this.
You just went to this?
Another one.
Okay.
Yeah, I first went to one a couple of years ago where the Louis Elizondo, who ran the ATIP program, I got to spend a little time with him and talk about this phenomenon. And a guy named Hal Putoff, who's a PhD, an old guy they helped start the Monroe Institute for remote viewing for the CIA guys.
Okay.
These are
The CIA? For the CIA?
Oh yeah, for remote viewing. That the Russians had a program like this back in.
Interesting.
So the CIA is looking into remote viewing?
Oh, they already had a program. They were doing this.
Oh, boy. For those of you that don't know what remote viewing is, can you explain that to everybody?
Yeah, it's literally, they don't see it as any kind of spiritual phenomenon. They see it as the world is sort of, we're all quantum in this soup connected.
Right.
And there's that information is ability to be here and be somewhere else through if you could get your mind tuned and through different techniques, you can go other places. And
Wait.
Yeah,
no, this is not. This is a serious program.
Like meditation and
like that stuff, but they're
The idea, like I can meditate and see what James is seeing, kind of thing. Yeah.
yes.
Holy.
And that's
hell.
something that
Transcendence.
Bigelow is super into, isn't he? Isn't he into remote viewing?
but you got to remember they're wanting to do all this stuff in the name of science and quantum theory and
World domination.
The New World Order.
I mean, it's gotten to a point, and we talk more about this. It's gotten to a point where the things they describe, if we were 200 years ago, it would be purely demonic.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be
for sure.
Oh, it's quantum, and there's 10 particles, and we're easing through the universe, and it's all science, and really, it's all chaos.
Yeah,
It's chaos at this point in terms of the way things are going. Greer, who's an expert at UFO phenomena. He's the guy who on the Gaia guy.
I just watched his most recent documentary.
Oh yeah, and what do? If they want to interact with UFOs, what do? They all go out and they create a big circle in a
Yep.
field.
I was telling you guys about this.
They meditate, man. I mean, they're meditating and they're trying to be at one with these friendly, these overseers of our planet. They're these UFO, and they summons them through the peace and the tranquility of the exercise. and they use lasers. And often they'll have a light show that comes. These things.
Are these people also on DMT?
I was about to ask, do they utilize some extracurricular
Drugs.
Substances.
substances
You know, there are
to
those.
open their mind to the alien pathways?
I don't know that he is, but those things are coming back. Unfortunately, this isotropic drugs and stuff. This stuff is. There are people that believe that's the gateway to something amazing, and I'm telling you, it's mind blowing because we're not even, and science is doing this too. They're now looking for the God particle. They're looking for all these quantum particles because if you're a hammer, everything's a nail. If you're a physicist, everything's an atom or a particle. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they want answers. They're bean counters. They're math bean counters and everything. They want to be able to hold everything and say, well, that's this particle, that's a proton, that's electron. The fact is, it's getting really wacky because we've got dual particle theory. If this little particle over here is doing this, there's one somewhere else exactly mirroring it.
Gotcha.
And that some of this stuff is being, quote, proved in the lab. And we're living incredibly weird times, guys.
Yeah.
And what I don't know how James sees it, but when I'm listening to all this, it's gotten to the point where the science, they just seem like a bunch of kooks.
Yeah.
How you feel about it, James? It's just nuts.
I mean, it's understandable.
The science.
Hey,
Bunch of kooks.
Hey, I'm a big fan of trying to figure this out, but I'm just sort of like, oh my gosh, we're out here meditating and
Dude, I said the same exact thing. I just told these guys, the new Greer documentary trapped me because the guy was like, when you're watching the preview, he's like, I have government documents. And I was like, all right, well, I'm watching this for sure. And then he's like, now we're going to pray to the aliens. And I was like, you tricked me. You tricked me. You started with the documents and I thought there was going to be something, but now you're praying to aliens and you got me. But
now, aliens, let's figure this out. Aliens, okay. If you really want to get technical here, the aliens, now they're saying they're not really probably living somewhere else. They are here among us.
sure.
That's the latest.
and they just
Hillary Clinton.
So here we are.
and they take on our form.
No, I'm talking in the planet, in mountains, big
Ocean.
Like,
I'm talking hybrid races.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
Bigfoot.
The DNA of some of these large skulls and everything, they seem to be a hybrid of us and something else.
Oh.
Interesting.
What was
So
that?
now here we are. Now, I don't know if you look, there have been, quote, giants, and they like to cover some of that up. I'm talking like, when I say giants, I don't mean 30 feet tall. I'm talking 12 feet. Or even up to 12. I mean, very large.
like Caleb's
skulls.
height.
And I don't mean going to the Museum of Weirdness where you found that one guy who can't even walk across the street without breathing hard. I'm talking a whole race of these people. I'm not talking about, what's that called? You go up to Gatlinburg and get the museum with all the weird.
Oh yeah, the Ripley.
Yeah, the Ripley.
Oh, I love that place.
Yeah,
All that stuff's true.
But I'm telling you guys, I am, in case you guys are wondering, I'm not into the alien stuff too much. I'm into what technology is the government hiding from us?
Sure.
A lot.
How much of what we seeing flying around is ours?
Yeah.
That's
Where
cute.
did we
That's
get
good
it, and how did we advance our program? And I think the Germans are a piece of that, by the way.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
the World War II, and I'm talking bringing them over here. I believe that. And then I think the UFO, a lot of it is a cover story. In other words, for doing spook stuff in the desert.
Gotcha.
When you're doing a sub-scale craft, because you don't have a ton of money, you know it's going to be remote control.
Yeah.
If you do lose control, maybe you have something that looks like what everyone's been talking about in the 1950s books they're reading.
Gotcha.
About, is this making sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me tie this in. So this is a perfect time to ask about this. You're familiar with the Bob Lazar story?
Absolutely.
Okay.
In fact, I've bought some stuff from Bob, but it wasn't it was the Element 115.
You didn't buy that?
No.
You should have tried.
No, I would have, but I wouldn't know what to do.
Really quick, for those of you that don't know about this, before we get into it, Bob Lazar said he worked in Area 51 called Area S4, and he was trying to reverse engineer the propulsion systems of, let's just say, crafts that were probably not from this world. And then his wife he had a top level clearance. His wife ended up cheating on him, and they were like, dude, we can't trust you. So he was thinking that they may kill him or do something, so he got worried and basically told his friends and exposed. And then he was saying some crazy stuff. This was in the 80s that people viewed as crazy, like Element 115. He was like, well, these crafts move with this Element 115. And at that time, they didn't have an Element 115.
Not publicly.
So, yeah, well, not publicly.
Right.
So he said a bunch of stuff, and people, and like his story is debated. But if you watch the documentary that was done by Jeremy Corbell, like it's pretty crazy, because stuff that he said in the 80s and some of the videos that are coming out that the government's releasing now, are the way he described that the ships would move, they're moving like that now.
Like belly first and stuff,
Yeah,
not just like flying sideways.
Yes. Yeah, so it's
the way they transverse, and they may have gravity magnification devices, but they might use another, like the moon, and pull themselves toward that body.
Oh, that's
So
Does that make sense? As opposed to basically it was a way they have a point source device, sort of like a laser.
Yeah.
But it's literally having a directional device that can create artificial gravity.
what?
But
when 115 does
It
that.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Wow.
It makes sense. It's
Yeah,
so cool.
but the backside of the craft has a shield of some sort that negates the effects of Earth's gravity, the field.
Right.
And it moves by pointing to something else.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
the way Lazar described it was, if you put a bowling ball on a bed and you push down, it like travels towards that, like it's bending gravity.
Yeah.
But they were basically saying that distance at that point doesn't matter, because if it's X amount of light years away, but it just turns and points to that and then goes almost instantaneously. And when he said in the 80s that the ship turned, like pointed its belly to something and flew, everybody was like, you're out of your mind. And then I don't know if it was the gimbal craft or one of those things. There's a fighter pilot watching it, and it's like floating, and then it turns its belly up, and then it gone instantaneously.
Yeah. Same similar craft that went from sea level to 100,000 feet in a second.
That's pretty fast. For those of you listening, that is very, very fast.
That's faster than a rocket.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Faster than James.
Only a little bit faster than a rocket
It's not
bike.
light speed, but
And these
I'd
craft
be impressed if it
went,
was light speed.
they have video of them going into the ocean at high speed, and there are no waves. The people on the Nimitz that have come forward, the guys that were down on radar and sonar, they have claimed that they were tracking these whatever at 500 knots under the water.
And they said they came down the Tic Tac video. So their radar starts at 80,000 feet.
Yeah.
So they were basically saying it came from above 80,000, but it went from 80,000 to the ocean like that, like to the sea level. It was like, I don't even know they had a time for it, instantaneously. And they were like, so it came from higher than that, but then it went to the ocean level. So these are some of the things that Bob Lazar, so that leads me to this. Do you believe that Bob Lazar worked there and was trying to reverse engineer some of these crafts?
Yeah, I do. Bob Lazar is a self-taught engineer, by the way.
Self-taught?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he reads a lot, and he builds stuff. He met. In fact, he met you heard of Lear jets? Mm-hmm. He met the Lear family because he had a jet-powered car that
that's
he
right.
ran, and later he built a hydrogen-powered Corvette. And he was making,
Makes
by the
sense.
way,
Yeah.
Bob was making his own hydrogen. You say, well, is that electrolysis? Well,
I wasn't saying that.
I would say that.
I was like, obviously, you go to the store.
I
you-
was thinking witchcraft.
No. The fact is, there's this special material that allows you can put it inside of a tank, and it makes the hydrogen bond to it. So you can get a whole lot more hydrogen in the tank than you would if it was just a tank. But that material, and I forget the name of it, but that material is sort of classified.
Oh.
Government controls it. So, but you can make your own. So Bob had to have a particle accelerator. So he builds a particle accelerator, and he creates the material. I'm not kidding. He talks about
Sounds
it.
like Ghostbusters.
It's no bull. And he made it his own. He was saying, I can run 6 hours on these few tanks on my car. He
my
said,
Lord.
I use solar to actually, these fill up overnight. And I use batteries. And so the point is, the guy was sharp
Yeah,
about
sure.
science.
Oh, yeah.
And I think they wanted someone out of the box
Right.
that would come in and look at things from a different viewpoint. And in some ways, I kind of feel like Bob Lazar. I've not had the formal training, so I'm not going to be pre-programmed to believe the
Yeah.
Einstein way of thinking. I'm more of a more old school.
Equals
I'm a
MC
Tesla guy.
squared.
I am a little before that, because that's where the atomist stuff come from. That's where the rabbit holes of particle physics, and that's what the super collider. They're all out there looking for all the fantasy particles.
Right.
Not sure we're not already unified in a lot of ways, but that's just me and a few other people that actually give us the modern electricity grid. That
So-
would be Tesla and others.
I was about to ask, like, we have all these extremely brilliant people such as yourself, Bob Lazar. I'm sure there's many, many others. We can't figure out anything other than electric cars to figure out.
No, that's
like,
what I'm saying. I think
like-
that's what he's saying. It's all a ruse.
There is. I think there
Keep
is. I
ExxonMobil
think
in
there
mind.
is. There is so much energy around us. It's what makes every atom in your body spin. What do you ever thought? Do you think it's the food you eat every day that's making all the magnetic particles in your body spin? It's not. It's the energy, and it could be probably from the sun in our case. There's all this incredible magnetic flux, and it's all reaching out, and it's doing work. You know, it's and you don't think about that, but it's the truth. We really are. You know, when they describe an atom, they'll say, well, this atom is, you know, you got your proton, your neutron, and that electron, he's hanging out there, and there's about 99% empty volume between him and the rest of it. Well, that empty volume is in the air, the probability of error. And no one before the Einstein days thought that the electron was literally a particle. It was more of a charge. And they refer to them as charges that change. They go up and down depending on what energy level they are. But they're not literally particles. It's like saying, if you think an electron runs down a wire to power your house, then that means the generator that's made of copper is going to run out of copper. And you're going to routinely have to
change out the copper.
throw them things away and rebuild them. Think about it, because you're consuming physical particles.
Right.
The fact is, it's not a particle. It's a it's a sort of a representation. It's a phenomenon.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And really, all electricity travels down these wires. It's between the wires. It's not on the wires. The magnetic field's between the wires. And when the power's running hot, and there's a lot of current, a lot of times the wires will pull together, or they'll push apart, depending. And but people don't realize that. And that in between, that's there's just a whole lot of physics going on that people aren't taught. We're trained to say these are electrons, and they run up and down these wires, and those, all the equations work, by the way, for that stuff. But it's really a horrible explanation
Equals
for
MC
reality.
squared.
It's the same at light. They say light is both a wave and it's particles. Okay, particles mean that's physical, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I got this laser. I shine it through this through this drink here, and it comes out the other side at 68%. It slows down by 68%, let's say, as it goes through it. It literally does. It speeds back up the speed of light when it exits that.
Okay.
Now, how do you impart energy to particles once it gets on the other side of that glass? The fact is, particle theory doesn't hold weight for conservation of energy. That's what I'm saying. This is a
Thank
This
you for
is a-
answering the question.
But this is an area, I'm just describing, there's some areas of physics here that don't add
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
And I've talked to James about this, and I'm saying these are the things we need to be looking at. It's the oddities in
Yeah.
physics is where I think we need to learn. I think it's going to be through a lot of experimentation that we discover some of the things that we don't know.
So, so you think that probably we were reverse engineering some kind of craft, and then do you think this is a technology that we've figured out now? Like maybe, I mean, whatever it is, gravity controlling device or whatever, or are we still working on it? Or do you think it's something that we actually have now? Because like the government has started releasing stuff. They're like, hey, there's some stuff up there we're not sure about. We're not super worried about it. Like whatever, like you can't fly like a
don't
normal
touch
plane
it.
over here. Yeah, like don't, like we're cool, but it's gonna be near our nuclear weapons and stuff. It's fine. It's not a big deal. Or do you think it's something that we've created and we have it and we're just like kind of testing it, or what do you think we're at with it?
I personally believe that we discovered this probably, and I think there, according to Bob Lazar too, there was the rumor was there was a dig.
That's crazy. I've heard that. Yeah, it's crazy.
And they found some of this stuff and
Bonkers.
and because he said when he looked at it, he said, there's no weld seams, there's no rivets, there's nothing about this, and in today's time we'd call it 3D printing or something.
Yeah. Right.
But so it's not. But he said, there's no curved surfaces. I mean, there's corners. There's no sharp edges.
Right.
Which to me sort of implies, there's definitely a lot. There's probably a high voltage component to this, and they're not wanting discharge points. They're not wanting. There's something about this craft that's probably trying to manage the what I think involves electrostatics.
Gotcha.
I think there's electrostatics. I think that's why everybody takes crappy pictures of a lot of UFOs. I think it's the plasma. The argon in the air with a high voltage potential. You ionize air and it glows in a certain color that we see.
Yeah.
And that's what I believe, and it kind of monkeys with the edges. Does that make sense?
I just heard somebody describe, there was a guy that he was over a secret area and he walked out and he saw this craft come over the area and he said it was the most beautiful thing he's ever seen. And he ran back inside, and this is that Jeremy Corbell guy telling that story. Yeah. And he said he went back inside and looked at it on the security camera and he said it looked totally different. Like it was totally distorted. But he's like, it was there, but it didn't look like the same color or anything. It was like, but that makes a lot of sense that it would be distorted.
And I think it has some effect on what cameras do, and even the older cameras, the chemistry of that. And it's really too the energy levels of what. Keep in mind when you get into the gamma radiation levels and stuff, you can't see it. It's super high frequency. It's not visible.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
It's the nastiest stuff. One of the higher the frequency, the nastier it is.
Right.
And we can't see it. So you don't know what other frequencies are being emitted from whatever's running this thing. So yeah, you catch some visuals, but it's also could be destroying the chemistry of photography and everything else.
Oh, that makes sense.
So I've thought a lot about this too, and everybody says, "Well, this day and time, why can't we get a decent photo?"
Yeah, that's what everybody says. Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, I saw a UFO about 15 years ago and freaked me out. It was on the way. It was late at night. My daughter, she's 12.
You saw a UFO?
I reported it.
Interesting.
What are you reporting?
Yeah, I reported
UFO.com?
to MUFON. There's a website for Alabama.
Okay.
And I typed it in and never heard back from them. But
How rude. I mean,
yeah. I don't think Alabama gets any credit for saying stuff. They just write it off.
Kay Ivey was
those
like,
swamp people down
Kay
there
Ivey
don't
was
know
like,
that.
UFOs are no concealed carry permits. No concealed carry
Yes,
permits.
that's it. Yeah, it is Alabama. It's Friday night. You know what these people do.
Yeah.
So maybe instead of
It was a disc, by the way. It was a crisp disc above the tree lines, and it was huge. And when I'm driving, I'm dipping up and down the 2-lane there, up on the mountain before you get to Collinsville, Alabama. And my daughter's like, "Man, what is it, Dad?" I'm freaking out. She's scared. You know. And I remember, and I'm catching. Now I haven't just pulled over on the side of the road and jumped out. At this day and time, I've never been a quick flipper of cameras like
Yeah,
these
yeah,
young
yeah.
people. Boom, just you're in the
Like
you're on-
Andrew.
I mean, my gracious, and it just don't dawn on you. You're just so like, are you kidding me, James? I think you'd be the same way. You're like, are you kidding?
Take it back.
This is, and I'm driving, it disappears, and I'm coming back around there. It's still there, and it's incredibly large. It looked to me circular, but I just was seeing part of it. And it didn't zip away. It's just that it disappeared as we're coming over the hill. And I just went and said, I'm going to go and report it. And I really kind of wigged out a little,
Yeah, sure.
Because I really didn't believe it. I really thinking,
Yeah.
are you kidding? I really am like that. I'm like, I didn't have an explanation,
Yeah,
by the
yeah,
way.
yeah, of
It was
course.
like, it was something big and it's up there above the trees. And it looks like it is glowing. But it wasn't, it looked crisp a little too. It wasn't like it was just a big ball of fire. It wasn't like that.
Okay.
And and I went home, told my family, thought I was nuts. And so
Go build a rocket bike.
You tend to not talk about these things much because real quick, everybody's like, okay, well,
Yeah, 'cause
Yeah.
you get embarrassed by it. Yeah.
Have you had a drug test lately? I'm telling you, man. But we did see it, and she did too, and she remembers it to this day. And then I saw something when I was in an airplane. And keep in mind, I got a lot of time with people that have spent a lot of time on planes flying.
Yeah.
Well, I'm talking pilots like Rutan. Rutan has built more airplanes designed than anybody on this planet alive today.
Gotcha.
And I've even asked him when we were traveling together in little 2-seaters and 4-seaters. I said, man, have you ever seen anything weird, And Brian Benny, the guy who flew Spaceship One, the first, second flight, they were talking about, he was an F-15 pilot, Navy. And he was talking about he had ball lightning come through this plane.
Yeah.
And it was a really freaky thing. It didn't seem to damage anything, but that we were all on our Clarks riding down to Phoenix, and I'm listening to these guys. Most of the time I was puking in a bag. And so they called me Tim Pukins when I got back. And I had my Clarks off, and I was just trying to sleep and not think about it and listen to them. But when I put them on, man, I'm hearing these stories. And Bert was talking about flying by Area 51, and he was pushing it right to the edge, clear day. He says he's about 8,000 feet, and he sees the runway, and then he says there was this lot of power grids, but he said there was this incredible, looked like a dust tornado come out of one of those buildings.
Oh boy.
And it came all as high, when you're riding in a plane at 160 knots,
Yeah.
and you're in the desert, it takes a long time to get.
Very
You can,
far,
at that altitude, you can see a long way. And
Yeah.
So it's not like you're going, oh man, what was that? It was
Yeah.
like,
I
what
mean, you
is
can
that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it takes forever to get down a 10,000 foot runway, but it's probably 12,000 feet. The point is, he said there was this huge tornado, and he said, man, I don't know what was running that energy wise, but he said they must be digging tunnels, and they're carrying that dirt out somehow, let it get in the upper winds. But he talked about the Aurora too.
The Aurora
Boreal.
space plane.
Space plane.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, gotcha.
And I asked him, was it real? And he says, yes, I think it was, and I think it was a little much to be flown, and they flew them remote.
Okay.
And he knew the guys at Skunk Works. Bert was started out as a test pilot where they built the SR-71.
Skunk Works is a division of Lockheed Martin.
Yeah. But
They did the U2 and
They did the band?
no.
The U
Steak.
They got Bono?
Maybe.
the U2 or the Me Too movement?
Well, it was, it used to be in Burbank. When you go to the Burbank airport, all of that around there used to be Lockheed Skunk.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And they would carry pieces of the airplanes up to the desert in the middle of the night. I'm sure you read about this stuff.
yeah.
But I wanted to know, Bert knew the Lears very well. And I sent Bert some notes. I said, man, with all this UFO phenomena going on, I said, is it true that Lear said, did you ever hear him say, we have the technology to even take ET home? There's
I heard
quotes
something,
about that. And I'm asking Bert, and he said, I knew John Lear well. And he said, some of this stuff you have to take with a grain of salt. But Bert was also very protective of what he knew about what our nation was doing. The technology would not allude to telling me something, because they did a lot of spook stuff out there at Scale Composites. By the way, I'm trying to figure out how much of this is real and how much of it is just bogus. So I'm taking serious resources that I meet. I mean, Bob Bigelow and Rutan, people that I meet through him. I want to know what are we dealing with. I'm a rock. I want to go to the stars. I want to have propulsion. I want to do something in my lifetime, make a difference. Is this worth chasing?
Yeah.
Is it something that there's some level of engineering we could do, even at home in a lab, to prove or disprove something? This is the kind of thing that excites me, by the way. It's not the alien thing, even though that seems to be what the Greers are interested in. The aliens have been protecting the planet for years, and that's why we haven't had a nuclear explosion. That's why we hadn't killed each other. It's the aliens. They're our guardian keepers. They're what? Like angels in the sky. And I'm serious. This is the way they describe it. They don't call it angels. They say they're here for our guardians, and they're peaceful, and they want to reach out to us, but we have to.
So what you're saying is we should spend in your job, full-time job, not your part-time or your side gig. You should spend more time investigating these type of resources and doing that instead of building missiles in a battleship, right? James?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Just joking.
I believe.
All right, so we got a change of work assignment coming up.
Yeah, we're gonna look
James,
for
can we get on this? I mean, I know.
We're gonna look for some R&D money to crack this nut. We're gonna go. We're doing anti-gravity and we're doing free energy. That's what we need to be doing.
Well, those are two good things to figure out. I would do that. Yeah.
What about fusion?
Me and Andrew are going to start working on that tomorrow.
Nice.
There's fusion, but there's also, I believe there's a electricity, and we think about alternating current. We're literally not sending things up and down. It's like wiggling a rope. The energy is the wave we generate.
Right.
And it's literally between the wires. These are magnetic fields. And whatever this frequency is at this end, it's that at that end. If you have a device to get in phase with that, you can utilize that power to do something. So you have one generator spinning at a certain frequency. We call it like a 3,600 RPM or whatever, and 60 hertz. You got a generator on the other end that can interpret that. It's wired to be in phase. So it's like a transmitter receiver, and that's all we're doing. These are just ether. These are perturbations in ether.
Gotcha.
You're not literally sending things back and forth. It's a magnetic wave. And that's what I believe is happening with the pop. When we're talking about free energy, whatever spins our atoms, a lot of it has to do, we have this thing called there's precession of every atom, and that's called the Lamore frequency. And this is how the MRIs work. Well, every atom is spinning, and it has an off axis.
Yeah.
And there are prominent high frequencies, and they're probably really, really high, like in the gamma. But I believe we have a way to tap into that. And I don't mean, when I say tap in, I mean grab 1% of that and do work with it. I don't mean 100% we can tap in. I do believe there are some energy devices, and this is probably how they're going to work. And they're not going to be spinning motors with belts and stuff, because this is happening at such high frequency. It's going to be something, probably a coil type device with some electronics to get the phase, so you can capture a harmonic of that and do work. I believe that's going to happen. I believe it's already happened. I know this is over y'all's head because it's over mine, but
I mean, it's over. It's Andrew and Caleb's. I totally get it.
But I'm telling you guys, it's
Waves,
Tracking right there.
yeah.
It's,
Waves, the sound waves. Yeah, I know. I hear what you're saying.
rope.
well, it's.
But I mean, if you think about it, okay, like an
S-wave.
EKG.
Yeah.
EKG is
Yeah.
basically reading your body's
For those of you listening,
S-wave.
electrocardiogram.
Yeah, but I
Nice,
mean,
nice.
it's
Okay.
very, very
Why are you
similar. I
looking
mean,
at
the
me
human
for
body has
confirmation?
electricity.
I what?
I said the human body does have electricity. I mean, it has
Yeah.
energy.
Well, the heart is electrically
The
charged
S
for sure.
node stimulates and propulses the heart to fire and contract the chambers in the heart.
Yeah,
that's over my
Interesting.
head.
No.
well,
Caleb knows one or two things. Huh?
I'm sorry. Can you put a rocket on a bicycle?
I mean, I could duct tape it to it.
You're like,
Yes.
if Tim gives me the rocket and the duct tape, I could probably do it.
I'm your guy.
I will tell you, it's
And the bicycle.
we live in an electric universe. Period.
Yeah.
Everything is electrical. Everything, even light is purely electromagnetic, and
Yeah.
there are different frequencies. Some we can see, some we can't. But we live in a total electrical universe. You know, you talk about people say, well, these black holes. You know what a black hole really is? It's not. It just didn't eat all matter, and there's nothing there. It literally is taking every atom. You remember I said earlier that they have that 99% space where that electron's running.
Yeah.
When that goes away and there's no magnetism, then all mass shrinks incredibly small. And when the absence of magnetism, that's where you get that black hole.
Interesting.
Everything collapses. And there are methods, obviously, in the universe that create that phenomena. But that is, if you're wondering how that can be, that's what's happening. There's something so strong that is literally collapsing the field of all atoms.
We call me the black hole around here. So strong that I understand.
Okay.
I know what you're saying.
We do not call him that.
I mean, does that make sense?
No,
Tom?
yeah.
Wait, time
It does make sense.
time slows at black holes, right? The closer you get to a black hole, is that correct?
That's what they say.
Science.
They did tests that said that, and that was the atomic clocks. They flew them on planes, and they definitely slowed down at the higher, as they.
That and the
Higher velocity.
NASA experiment Gravity Probe B.
That's right.
Is
That
that the
was
one they
run
stuck
by our
inside of
buddy-
you?
No.
I think they tested it in Interstellar too.
What's that?
I think they tested it in Interstellar too.
I bet you think that, don't you?
So
It's not real.
I don't have no idea. I have no idea what you're talking about.
The movie.
So we
Oh,
had, So we had an episode kind of based on conspiracy theories, and it kind of played into a little bit.
Andrew led it.
Yeah, Andrew led it. It played into a little bit of the UFO talk, talking about different things, and then we talked about Antarctica on there.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
What?
What
Where-
about the?
What do you know about
Oh,
Antarctica?
what do you-
Ooh, I don't.
He's like,
they're
there's
lying.
nothing up
Hey,
there. There's
they're
nothing.
lying to us.
Yeah, well-
Hey, it's flat. The Earth is flat.
Well, listen.
And Antarctica has walls down there. There's a big wall. And
Yeah.
it's hard to get past the wall. Have you guys heard?
No,
There's
we're not.
infinite resource. There's another city under there. There's another world, right?
Under
That's the one
Antarctica?
Yes, with trees. It's you've
Oh,
heard
that's
this,
right,
haven't
the
That's
you?
trees
the
under
one
there.
we have heard talk, not the flat Earth one.
Okay.
Well, I mean, the flat Earth
Well,
thing is 100% real.
no,
We all know
I'm more on board with
For
the
the
cubed Earth.
Yeah,
Earth.
with GIS.
that. Yeah, Caleb thinks the Earth is cubed.
For the record, I can't agree with you.
You.
What, that the Earth is flat?
It's not
You
flat.
said it.
I have a geography degree.
You said it. Andrew was like, I know maps, but I
the
mean, like,
reason-
Wait a minute, but aren't your maps flat?
Yeah.
Interesting.
oh,
Funny how that works out.
Greenland is just kind of.
2D,
Yeah,
Andrew, huh?
Greenland's way too
Hey.
big.
Tim just projected all over your face. What happened?
Absolutely.
So I have. So, what time is it here? I don't want to keep
You know,
it too
I've
long.
launched a lot of rockets, and they could have hit the firmament. I don't know. there is some
Well,
of
there's
that.
no way to tell.
A lot of
Yeah.
people say it's up there, and there's no
So-
way NASA can penetrate it, and it's a big hoax. Everyone.
Speaking of the whole flat Earth thing, didn't Mabry shared this with us? There's a flat earther that did an experiment where he held like
Yeah, this is so funny.
a flashlight at like 17 feet above sea level, and then basically had two holes. So he had like wood or something like that, and he cut two holes in it, and he had a camera at the other end, and basically between the two holes, you should be able to see the light from the two boards if the Earth is flat at 17 feet. Then he said, well, if you move the camera up to 23 feet and the hole's up to 23 feet, then it'll project the curvature of the Earth, and you'll be able to see the light through. So he's sitting there doing the experiment. And he's like, obviously we're gonna see the light at 17 feet. He's talking to his buddy. He's like, all right, go ahead and raise it to 17 feet. He's like, all right, it's already at 17 feet. He's like, all right, well, just for fun, raise it to 23 feet. And then all of a sudden you raise it up and you see the light. And he's like,
He proved his
he's
own
like, what? Something must be wrong. So he proved his own
He
theory
was.
wrong.
I watched the video. He was so cocky. He was like, I mean, obviously we're gonna see the light, and he's like, go ahead and turn the light on, and go ahead and turn the light on,
Is the
And-
light on?
and go ahead and turn the light on. And the guy's like, it's on. He was like, put it at 23 feet, and it comes through, and he's like,
Foiled again.
I guess it's curved a little bit.
You know, it's there was one guy a few years ago called Mad Mike who built a rocket, steam powered, and he was going to go up and prove the Earth was flat. Now he was only going to get up to maybe 5,000 feet, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But
Chump change.
I know much about this because some people came in this station wagon about 5 years ago to my home and needed a large tank. And I happen to have one. It came out of a 19.
You had a large tank at your house?
It would normally have been an
No.
oxygen. Listen.
Okay.
Not an army tank.
This is an
Sorry.
oxygen tank of a
Sorry,
bomber
okay.
from World War II, and it was about
My bad.
3 feet diameter, and it's about 4 feet long. And he said, "That's the tank. That's the one we've been looking for." And they didn't make many of them. I had one of them.
So-
He said, "We want to buy it. We want to buy it." I said, "Okay, what are you going?" I said, "I don't want to know what you're going to do with it." So they loaded it up in the car, and they gave me a couple grand for it, and they took off. Next thing you know, I'm sort of thinking, what that guy's working on? Well, it was a steam rocket. And then later I saw he was like a chief engineer for the guy, Mad Mike, who was a limo driver who was going to prove the world's flat. You can look it up. And
Good.
Mad
that
Mike,
guy,
World
that
Flat.
guy went up once, by the way, a few thousand feet. And he broke his ribs coming in, and
Killed
then
himself.
he
Oh,
ended
really?
up augering in, man, and he ended up dying, and I never did follow up on where my tanks ended up, but I'm telling you that's a true story. People that think they can go to 5,000 feet, man, we do that flying little Cessnas and Cherokees, and I mean, do we get a view that says, oh, it's definitely round or flat? No, it's inconclusive at those.
So, I mean, going up into space, that's when it gets conclusive. Like, you can see the curvature of the...
Yeah. But what if it's just a big pizza? What if we're looking at just a big pizza?
that's-
I mean, what
that's
if
a
it's
thought.
still flat? It's just round pizza.
It's round flat.
Yes.
It's
Round
not square.
It's like a
Round
cookie.
flat?
Yeah.
It's like a cookie instead
There
of
he is
a...
right here on this video. That's
moron.
him, man. Oh, and the chute opened on the way up, so it stripped the cords.
Oh jeez.
Oh yeah, man.
Wait, his parachute opened on the way up?
Oh, yeah.
That's the worst time for it to open.
Yeah.
And I'm not a rocket scientist.
I don't think you want that to happen.
You know, this happened to Evel Knievel when he tried to jump the Snake River Canyon in a steam rocket.
Oh,
The
really?
The chute opened on the way up.
So what he was going to go up there and prove that the Earth was flat?
Somehow.
At
That was
5,000
the whole
feet.
purpose. I didn't know how he was going to
Why
do
didn't
that.
now? Here's a counter question. Why didn't he just go on a plane and just
They
take
go
some
mu- they
pictures
go-
out?
Because
They go
it's
much
hard
higher.
to raise.
But
it's
they have
hard-
to pass 5,000 feet to get.
Yeah, they go much higher than that.
Yeah, they have to pass
Yeah,
through.
as in it would help his
Oh,
case.
it would help his
Yeah.
case.
Hey,
Oh.
then he wouldn't get sponsorships from all the flat earthers.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's true.
You had to
That's
play
important.
the game,
Yeah.
right?
What's
Yeah,
he doing with
people
it?
like-
Because the
Think about how many
yeah, I
flat
mean,
earthers are. You ever been
Yeah.
on TikTok? There's a whole drove of them out there.
well, just-
had it-
just in
People
case
like
you didn't know.
Chevy and Tesla sponsored
Well, in
them
case you
to
didn't.
flat earthers.
Yeah, exactly.
that?
In case you didn't know, the windows on airplanes are all video screens. They don't.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Is that what flat earthers say?
I don't know.
Oh,
They
okay.
say a lot of
They could
things.
probably
They'll
say
say, you
So is this
see
him?
the rocket hit the firmament. Yeah, that's Mad Mike. I never met this guy, but I met the guy who designed his rocket.
So this is his theory, is that it's this is his theory?
That's
and
the
the-
pizza, man.
And the sun goes around the Earth. That has
What
to
do
be
you
it.
think? Do you think it's a... I'm just curious. Like, I won't judge you either way. I'm just...
well, I think it's a
I mean, I'm gonna
I
judge
think
you,
it's a
but...
two-sided pizza. and
You think it's standing like this?
and I think when you get to the edges, I think there's a gate that opens up, and they've got a little like a tunnel you go through to get to the south. So
Wow.
it's just kind of, I figured this stuff out, guys. Remember,
Bert's
I don't
Construction.
have a formal education, so I can think up these amazing things.
So, I was going to ask this earlier. So, you've mentioned Travis Taylor,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
A few times.
Good
And
guy.
So I watched Skinwalker Ranch and all that kind of stuff, and they talk about like all of his PhDs and how educated he is. How is it dealing with like so? And even James is very smart, very educated, everything. Like, how is it as yourself, not really kind of having you have like a business degree, right?
Right.
And then not having like formal education, like gaining the respect of your peers as someone that's kind of self-made. Like I was curious.
When you get asked to do big projects for some of these billionaires and you actually pull it off, and then other ones want to hire you to help solve problems, then either they're flat earthers and I am, and we're just helping each other.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'm good at something that I learned. I learn a lot of stuff on my own. It's
Sure.
and James does that too. I mean, now that he's been out of college, I mean, he learns a lot of stuff every day.
Yeah.
You know, we learn a lot. We didn't know a lot about, high-speed planes and this and that, but we have to learn these things, and it's fun. We enjoy learning.
Yeah.
And we don't care what it is. We'll dig in. For me, the gravity nut is something I'm really interested in trying to.
Gotcha.
I've done chemical propulsions, man. We haven't made major changes in so many years.
Right.
I mean, it's 50 years, same thing. That's boring, man. We got to do something different if we're going to go to the stars. You know, they're really talking nuclear rockets. They're starting to put money into that.
They seem to think that is the way to go, right? Nuclear power.
It's one way. I mean, the fact is, I believe, we talked about this. Is the government really got the technology? Or is this something other than that? Do you think the government, if they did have it, no matter where they got it, you think they're going to acknowledge they have it?
I wouldn't.
Never, ever.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
When I prove something to you, if you know I have it, if I have the secret sauce to live forever, and I've shared this, I've got the ingredient. You can just take a pill and you live another 100 years. Yeah. I can assure you'll have it at that point, and I'm probably not going to be around at some point. Yeah. It's the way it is.
It's the same thing with the fisherman. He's never going to tell you where he caught his fish.
Exactly.
But you're going to buy his fish.
Exactly.
But he's going to show you the amazing picture.
Yeah.
Now, he'll claim his fish because, he's not accountable to the taxpayer.
Right.
But when you're accountable to the taxpayer, they think they have a right to know everything going on. Seriously.
Yeah.
And so I believe there's that element. And I believe there are things going on that are absolutely not us or anybody else on this in the military. I believe it. And I think they're finally coming out. They were grounding airplane pilots. Anyone here ever want to talk about this, whether it's commercial or otherwise, don't report this stuff. Everybody would say, man, you're going to be grounded. You're not going to get to work. And
like if you were the pilot and you reported it?
Yeah. Not just military. It's a fact because you got to go through a big debriefing and you've got it. Yeah, and it'd be like me and James flying and say, I didn't see around this for 3 seconds. Did you?
Not at all.
No, I don't. No, and I didn't see that little point on top. Okay, great. Well, let's go back. This is a standard flight today. Yes, sir. Yeah. And that's the way it'd be because we like flying. We're going to get back up and do our thing.
Yeah.
And we've worked with guys, these special force types, man. It's all about going out and playing and having a mission. And believe me, last thing you want to do is get hung up and be grounded because you saw something.
Yeah.
So there's new laws they're working on right now.
I just heard about this.
Okay, we'll let you talk about that because I think it's good where they're not going to persecute.
They basically are promoting. If you're, I'm not going to say a whistleblower, if you are a reporter of UFO activity, that you can't have retribution. Like you can't get in trouble for reporting it. So like if I was flying a fighter jet and I saw something, that they want me to report it now. They don't want me to keep it to my. If you watch the Commander Fravor talk, he was like, he saw the Tic Tac and then he was talking to his guy. He's like, we're going to get it when we get back. And like, he just didn't want to say it because they were going to be like, and he was like a very, well-known pilot, and,
squad leader.
Yeah, and he was still like, oh boy, they're gonna really. Yeah. And he's even now, he's like, I saw something. He's like, it was. He's like, I mean, it was pretty crazy. It was pretty fast, but he's still like, even now, he's like, got to be careful what I say. I don't want to get in trouble. Yeah. But it's super interesting.
As soon as they landed, there was a helicopter that landed and said, everybody needs to get your tape everything off the planes, and they
Right.
send it down, and somebody, it usually copies it or whatever. Well, this time they said, everybody turn your stuff over to this guy,
Yeah.
black suit or.
Oh yeah.
And
Men in
that's
Black.
they're
Yeah,
telling
Will
us.
Smith. Will Smith.
By the
It
way,
was Will Smith. He's like, look into the camera.
I mean, it's the truth,
Flashy thing.
and now they're really getting the word out. They're really the UFO talk. This stuff is really becoming mainstream now, and it's not because we are all crazy. It's really, I mean, some of us are, but seriously, man, we are finally can have this conversation that we're having here today, and not just be blown off because it's real. I mean, I talked to engineers in the community. They said, incredible claims require incredible evidence. They just don't want to hear it. They don't want to talk about it. And so you can't even have those conversations with some of the PhD physicists. Travis told me, man, and this ain't Travis. Travis is a guy who's all about science.
Sure.
He's not, he's not a fuzzy, he's not an emotional kind of guy. It's
right.
It's science, but he even told me, he said, you gotta be, this stuff's weird. He says, sometimes it'll like follow you home. And I'm thinking, what, follow you home? That doesn't sound science.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he says, I'm telling you, I said, and he talked about this recently. He said, my car, he said, I got out to get the mail and my car's running. It turns itself off. It restarts. He said this has happened a couple times.
Oh my
and and there are other people who are claiming that this will kind of mess with you when you get home.
I mean, he's got to
Oh,
stop
dang.
buying those Japanese cars.
That's the
I
first
mean,
time.
think about that.
Suzuki.
He's telling us this messes with you, and it can go home with you. What does that mean? What is
Yeah.
that? What I do with that? If you were doing a reporting of an experiment, and this is where you concluded, this is starting to come home with me. I mean, we take our jobs home sometime with us and the stress, but this was different. This was doing physical things. And
It's like if I had somebody hanging drywall inside my house, I'd be like, hey, what are you doing?
it's just, it's very
Bring
odd.
work home again.
But it's very
Mexican hot
odd.
dog.
It's just so odd now that science can buy into ideas like, well, it's spooky action at a distance is what we call that.
Mm-hmm.
The particle physics and everything. And I'm thinking spooky. So it's ghost at a distance. It's Ghostbuster stuff. To me, it's just weird that science is now, because they can't figure stuff out. They really are getting just crazy to me.
Sure.
And going down rabbit holes as we all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was unbelievable. We're almost at 2 hours.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
So,
Sorry.
I mean, no,
Tim,
don't be sorry.
Tim,
This has
we
been-
will have you on anytime you want.
Oh, cool.
We appreciate it. This was awesome.
James' fault.
I mean, James,
James,
yeah,
no,
James,
we
stop
will
talking
we
so
will
much.
gladly have you on anytime. This was
This
awesome.
was- yeah.
I appreciate you giving us your time, James. Thank you for hooking us up.
I did nothing.
And this has been a fun episode. I really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
That was fun.
Thanks
too.
for the time.
And I didn't even know you guys were out here doing this sort of stuff. In Huntsville, people don't talk about UFOs too much. It's, there's not enough science there to have these sort of discussions. I'm surprised James, you probably said, you know any weirdos in town that
We're
can
not.
talk about
Well, listen.
I said, if I got a
Let me
guy
tell
for you.
Let me tell you one thing. This podcast is not worried about science. So we'll have you on anytime. We'll talk about. Super interesting guy.
Well, thank you.
We appreciate it. Thank you
It
so
doesn't
much
have
for
to be
coming
about
on.
UFOs. It can be about anything.
Yeah,
honestly.
anything you want to talk
You have
about.
a
You want
lot
to
of-
come back on and talk about rockets for 2 hours? We'll listen to you.
Yeah.
So-
Well,
Roller skating.
Roller skating.
Dang it! I forgot.
Yes, that's what I'm doing tonight. Actually, I'm going to leave here and I'm going to go and see if I can defy gravity and land soft.
I just want you guys to understand that he's not talking about roller blading,
No.
quad roller skating.
Yes. We
That's
do
right.
we do have some of those guys with those roller blades and
Losers.
they're just too fast. They're always wanting to race me. I'm 58 years old. There's a cemetery full of guys that were bold that took bets from people that are 18 years old.
So,
I said, I ain't. gonna
As they're
do
talking
that.
crap, you're doing the one where you're
Yeah.
squatting down on one leg.
Yeah.
And then you're like, ah.
yeah. I've got the girl pushing me around while I'm squatting
Yeah.
down, and he's showing out with his little lines.
What are you gonna grind? You gonna grind? Huh? Do your 360 or something?
Yeah.
Well,
You just need
every
to ask
week.
him where their hockey stick is. That's what,
Every week that guy wants to race me. I'm like, dude.
he's a specific guy.
He's that guy.
He's-
Yeah. Oh, you know what you should do? I'm just throwing it out there.
He's got a mullet.
You should put a rocket on your skates.
He's got a girlfriend.
Have you not thought about that? Rocket on your skates?
I'm in, man.
I mean,
James, you skate pretty good. You're younger, man. You could come back from.
Wait a minute. You didn't tell me you skated pretty good too.
Not good.
We're gonna talk about this after. We're gonna talk about
James
this.
James like not good. I skate well.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on.
Like, not good. Phenomenally Olympic gold. Like, oh my gosh.
You seem like a figure skater to me. I could say.
Nope.
He was
Figure skater?
He's an ice skater. He's an ice capade guy. You know how some
makes
Blades
sense.
of Fury, baby.
You know they had the Thunder Down Under. Well, James's deal with ice skates. You know they had their shirts off, and it was a weird deal. It was
Yeah,
Just
kind of like that movie with Will Ferrell.
Yeah, Blades of Glory.
Blades of Glory.
Oh, Blades of Glory.
Blades
that
of
was
Glory.
Exactly. Yeah, we know what you're talking about. Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been awesome. Tim, thank you again. James, thank you.
Oh yeah.
That's fine.
Andrew.
Andrew, awesome job
Get
getting
you.
everything set
Oh,
up.
Okay.
Thanks, Andrew.
Guys, we'll see you next time. Thank you guys so much. Have a good night.
Bye.
Thank you guys.